In a town where shadows whispered secrets and the night hid unseen terrors, an unsettling legend lingered, the tale of the Licked Hand. It's a story that blurs the line between comfort and horror, where the familiar becomes the feared. As darkness falls and the winds carry eerie murmurs, one must wonder, what truly lies beneath the veneer of safety? Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where every touch may be a chilling omen, and every moment a step closer to a waking nightmare. Emma loved the solitude of her old countryside home. Nestled away from the bustle of the city, it was her sanctuary. Her only companion was her faithful dog, Shadow, whose presence offered comfort during the loneliest nights. As the moon cast an ethereal glow over the landscape, Emma settled into bed, dangling her hand over the edge for Shadow to lick, a nightly ritual that reassured her. Tonight, however, the air felt different. The usual chorus of nocturnal creatures was absent, replaced by an oppressive silence. Shadow's lick seemed colder, almost hesitant. Dismissing the unease creeping into her mind, Emma closed her eyes, attributing her discomfort to exhaustion. Little did she know, this small act of trust would unravel into a haunting reality. Morning light filtered through the curtains as Emma awoke to an empty room. Shadow was nowhere in sight. Stretching, she made her way to the bathroom. As she reached for the faucet, her gaze caught something that made her blood run cold. Scrawled on the mirror in shaky wet letters were the words, "Humans can lick too." Her heart pounded in her chest as she backed away, bumping into the sink. The message glistened ominously, water dripping down the mirror's surface. Panic surged. Had someone broken in? Where was Shadow? The comforting silence of her home now felt threatening. She grabbed her phone to call the police, but hesitated. What could she say? That someone leave a creepy message? Doubt gnawed at her, but fear propelled her to find answers. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma scoured the house for any signs of an intruder. Doors were locked, windows secured. There was no indication of forced entry. Shadow remained missing, intensifying her worry. In the attic, amidst cobwebs and dusty heirlooms, she stumbled upon an old box belonging to the previous owners. Inside lay faded photographs and newspaper clippings about a series of mysterious disappearances in the area. One article detailed the legend of a deranged hermit rumored to wander the countryside, seeking companionship in the most twisted ways. The locals called him the Licker, a figure whose presence was synonymous with impending doom. Emma's hands trembled as she realized the legend wasn't just a ghost story, it was a warning. As dust settled, Emma's anxiety grew. Shadow had not returned, and the isolation pressed heavily upon her. Stepping outside, she called out into the encroaching darkness, but only silence answered. Returning indoors, she noticed muddy footprints trailing across the kitchen floor. Not paw prints, but bare human feet. Following the trail with mounting dread, she reached the basement door, which stood ajar. A faint scratching sound echoed from below. Summoning her courage, she descended the creaking steps. The basement was cold, the air thick with dampness. In the corner, she found Shadow's collar, torn and frayed. The realization hit her like a cold wind. She was not alone, and whatever was with her had taken Shadow. Sleep evaded Emma as she lay in bed. Every creak of the old house amplified in the silence. Around midnight, a soft scratching at her bedroom door stirred her. "Shadow," she whispered hopefully. Opening the door, she was met with an empty hallway shrouded in shadows. A cold draft brushed past her, carrying a faint, unsettling giggle. Returning to bed with a racing heart, she pulled the covers tight. Just as she began to drift off, a wet, coarse lick grazed her hand. Relief washed over her. "Shadow, you scared me," she murmured. Reaching to pet him, her hand met empty air. The realization jolted her fully awake. Her eyes darted around the room, but nothing was there. The giggle returned, closer this time, and a whisper followed. "I like when you taste fear." Desperate and terrified, Emma decided to leave the house. Packing hurriedly, she glanced out the window to gauge the darkness outside. Her breath caught in her throat. Reflected in the glass was not her face, but that of a gaunt, pale man with a sinister grin. Spinning around, she found the room empty. The walls seemed to close in. The the air thick with malevolent energy. She grabbed her keys and sprinted toward the front door. Just as she reached it, a force slammed it shut. The lights flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. Footsteps echoed from the floor above, deliberate and slow. Panic consumed her as she realized escape was no longer an option. The entity was toying with her, relishing her terror. Trapped and alone, Emma retreated to the living room, clutching a fireplace poker for protection. The footsteps descended the stairs, each creak fueling her dread. "Why are you doing this?" she screamed into the darkness. A low chuckle emanated from the shadows. "I've been so lonely," the voice croaked. "Won't you keep me company?" The figure emerged, a twisted silhouette with unnaturally long limbs and eyes that gleamed with malice. Emma brandished the poker, her hands shaking. "Stay back," she warned. The entity tilted its head, mocking her feeble attempt at defense. "Your fear is intoxicating," it whispered, inching closer. "Just one lick." Mustering every ounce of courage, Emma swung the poker as the entity lunged. It passed through the figure, meeting no resistance, and she stumbled forward. The entity's cold fingers grazed her cheek, leaving a burning sensation. Adrenaline surged as she darted past it, racing toward the back door. Flinging it open, she plunged into the night, the cold air biting her skin. Behind her, the entity's laughter echoed, a sound that seemed to reverberate from all directions. She ran into the dense woods bordering her property, branches clawing at her as she fled. The house receded from view, but the oppressive presence remained. Lost and disoriented, Emma tripped over a root, tumbling to the ground. As she looked up, the entity loomed above her. "There's nowhere to run," it hissed. Cornered and exhausted, Emma realized she couldn't escape physically. Recalling the articles about the hermit, she wondered if confronting the entity's past could save her. "I know who you are," she whispered, struggling to steady her voice. "You're the one they abandoned, the one who lost everything." The entity paused, its form flickering. "They forgot me," it replied, a hint of sorrow tainting its venomous tone. Seizing the moment, Emma continued, "You don't have to be alone. Holding others captive won't fill that void." The woods around them seemed to be still, the night holding its breath. The entity's eyes softened briefly before hardening once more. "It's too late," it said. "I'm bound to this fate, and now so are you." Prompt. Confronting the tormentor with empathy might be the key to breaking the cycle, but risks pulling you deeper into the darkness. Drawing strength from within, Emma stood tall. "I won't let fear control me anymore," she declared. The entity recoiled as a radiant glow emanated from her, a manifestation of her resolve. Shadows retreated, and the oppressive weight lifted slightly. The entity screamed, a sound of anguish and desperation. "Join me," it pleaded, reaching out one last time. Emma shook her head. "You need to let go." With a final, ear-splitting wail, the entity dissolved into the night, its essence scattering like mist under the morning sun. The forest around her brightened as dawn broke, rays of light piercing through the canopy. Emma found her way back home, weary but alive. Shadow waited on the porch, wagging his tail as if nothing had happened. Relief washed over her as she embraced her loyal companion. Though the scars of the night's ordeal remained, she knew she had broken free from the legend's grasp. The licked hand would haunt her no more. Are you craving more spine-chilling tales? Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to never miss a new story. Join us for more terrifying journeys into the unknown, where suspense and horror lurk around every corner. And don't forget to share your thoughts and suggestions for our next video in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned if you dare.